Hi, welcome to the Felt Studio. I'm Wendy Bailey. I'm an Australian-based felt maker and I have been making felt for around about 30 years, and I've made a commitment to make some YouTube videos to share some of the skills that I've learned with you all. So today I'm going to start with just showing you how to shape a pod. So I have a class coming up which is called Textures and Patterns in Nature. So I've been playing with lots and lots of different pod shapes and structures as samples ready for my online class. So I just thought I'd like to share a few little tricks. So if you've watched my making a round pod video, you will have learnt how to do an all-in-one template. So this is the template shape here. So it's just, I just use some 2mm or 3mm soft foam, but you could use bubble wrap or even garden plastic, just anything that will be able to be used as a resist. And the resist is what keeps the space in the middle of whatever it is that you're making. So this is the pod here that I've made using this resist. So the resist was living inside the pod, and I've just taken that out. And what I'm going to show you is how I shape that. So it's basically a pod, and what I've done is cut a section out in this center, just a slit, and it's quite thick felt, so it needs to be quite thick and it needs to be hard felted and fulled so that it will hold its shape. So what I have here is I have some water, and it's warm water, and I'm just going to immerse my pod in the warm water just to relax the fibers a little and make them a little bit easier to shape. I'm just going to squeeze out the extra soapy water. Now this has quite a lot of soap in it, and what I'm going to use to do some shaping, I've got a few little tools. This one is just a citrus juicer, it's a wooden one, and I can use that to kind of push in the end of my pod and rub. And as you can see, it has little ridges around the outside, and these little ridges help to shape and full the pod. So I'm just rubbing that. If you start to notice that your wool gets quite hairy, just pop a little bit of soap on it. I use olive oil soap because it's not too sudsy. And you just rub, and you're just trying to shape this little pod and get the ends a little bit firmer. I'm going to just stick it into the other end of the pod and do the same. So a little bit of soap. I've just discovered a really great trick, and that is to put your soap in one of these bags. Now, if any of you have been felt makers for a while, you know how hard it is. You have a wet bar of soap, you put it down on your table and it sticks to the table, and it's really hard to get off, and it's really slippery. So putting it in one of these old, I think it was an old bag that had some avocados in it, and then just rub, it just makes it easy to pick up and put down. So I'm just rubbing, and what will happen when you rub this is it will shape to whatever shape it is that you have inside. So I'm just rubbing. I've got some lovely little bits of silk fibre on here. And the wool that I used is a Polworth wool, which is quite a nice firm felting wool, which is a cross between a merino sheep and a Lincoln long wool sheep. And I'm just shaping that. And you can see this is quite interesting because it has the little ridges. We'll get some really nice shapes. And then I'm just going to put it into the middle part and rub there as well. There's all sorts of things that you can use. You don't really need special felting tools. You can usually find something in the kitchen or in the workshop that will do the job. So you can see just by this started out flat onto this template. And now with a little bit of working, and you can also stretch. Stretching is a great thing to do with your felt, and it makes it finer and more even textured. And the edge that I've cut, I need to put extra soap on that and rub that. So I always say, if you have cut your felt, you need to heel your felt. And I use the heel of my hand and I just rub with soap backwards and forwards. So you can see this is getting to be quite nicely shaped. Now what I want is for this pod to look like it's got some little seed pods in it. So what I have is I have grandchildren, and they have had some Kinder Surprises. So what I'm going to do is put those Kinder Surprises into my pod You could use little plastic balls as well, anything really that you have that's nice and round. And how many will I put in? Oh, I'll see if I can squeeze in 3. Yep. Okay, so I've put my 3 Kinder Surprises into my pod. And now what I'm going to do is rub this. Now it's got lots of soap. And I'm rubbing. And I'm really trying to shape this. And I will keep doing this until such a time as the felt is nice and hard and it holds its shape. You can see I'm just kind of caressing the pod and around these little balls to try and you can see already that the shape is changing a little bit more. Rubbing and rubbing and rubbing and shaping. This is a really easy way to get a little bit more of an interesting shape. And you kind of really tuck in around those shapes. Now in this bowl I have some hot water, so I'm just going to put some hot water on that. I tend to always felt with cold water, but for something like this I will use a little bit of warm water at the end just to relax those fibres, as I said. So I'm still shaping and rubbing those pods. My Kinder Surprise has popped open, so I'm just going to fix that. It always happens when you're videoing. I might just leave that one. As long as the shape's on the bottom, it's fine. Okay, and can you see how the shape of that is getting more interesting? Now what I will do when I've finished shaping this pod is I'll go and rinse it with the little Kinder Surprises still inside. I will rinse that off, get all the soap out, and then I put my hand into a plastic bag or use not a rubber glove but a thin plastic glove and just rub, and that stops my fingers bringing up the pile on the wall. Okay, so I'm going to take out these little shapes just so that you can see what's happened. So you can see my little pod has become a little bit more interesting. So it has a really nice shape to it. And then what you can do is you can fill those spaces with whatever it is that you want. Now I've also got another pod that I've been working on. And this is a completely different technique. And so what I did was I made a flat piece of brown felt. It's just been sitting in the water to keep it nice and warm. So it was just a random piece of felt that I made, but on the piece of felt I put a resist on the surface of the wool and then laid more layers and then felted it. And then what I did was I cut along here and I took that piece of plastic out. And what I've done is I've filled it with a very large felt ball. Now you could put a rock in there or whatever it is that you wanted. And I've put the felt ball in. Now what I'm going to show you is just how you can shape a flat piece of felt into a pod shape. So what I'm going to do, I've got a little pair of pliers here and I'm just going to pull this edge and I'm going to elongate, and you can pull quite hard, that's why I find pliers to be really good. I'm going to elongate that just square shape into a pod shape, and what I'm going to do is turn those edges over and I'm going to add a little bit of soap and I'm going to work these edges around my pod shape. Now this was just a flat piece of felt, so it's a really great way to get some interesting shapes. And what you can do, I think this one needs a little bit of a trim. I'm just going to, scissors are slippery. I'm just going to trim that off. Okay, and you can see I'm working these fibres. Now this was quite a coarse wool, I do find that coarse wools are a little bit better than merino at holding their shape. So that's something that's worth looking in. You can see I'm just moving these fibres and massaging them. And you can do whatever you like with the shape, but what you need to do is you need to rub it for quite a long time. I would rub, if I was doing a pod not on video, I would be rubbing that for at least 15 to 20 minutes to get it to shape into the shape that I wanted. And I might be dipping it in and out of the hot water to keep the fibres nice and warm. So you can see that's already a really interesting shape from a very simple flat piece of felt. So that's just a couple of little ideas of shaping pods. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you could subscribe to my channel. I did have an idea of doing a video every week, but of course with life, other things always seem to happen, but I will be posting regularly. And giving you some ideas and hopefully sharing some of the skills that I've learned over a long career in felt making with you. So that's the other little pod. So we've got two beautiful little pods, really simply done. So thank you for joining me, and I'll look forward to thinking about what I'm going to share with you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.